Welcome to the online launch of the Rugby site. Alongside me I have Graham Henry and Wayne Smith, the glamour boys behind the All Blacks. And over in the Brisbane ether we'll be hearing from Richie McCaw and Dan Carter, and from Scotland, in the midst of preparing his national team for the World Cup, Gregor Townsend will also be with us. The team will be answering your questions over the next half an hour or so. Some have been sent in beforehand, and some, if you want to get firing them into us now, we'll hope to get to them by the end of the cast. So get on there online. And now, if you wouldn't mind, Graham and Wayne, I would like you to talk about the Rugby site and the reasons you became involved. And perhaps, Graham, you'd like to kick this off for us.
Yeah, hi folks. I'm pleased you could be with us. The Rugby site is a high-quality online rugby coaching site. I'm excited by it. I got involved for two major reasons. The first one is that I've obviously got a love for the game. I've been involved for a very long time. Enjoy the people and enjoy the coaching process. And the second reason is the people behind the scenes. I think they are quality people, got exceptionally high standards and huge technical expertise to put something very special for you to look at and learn from. So that's the two major reasons.
And Wayne, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's a privilege for me to be beside my old mate here. I've got a little story to tell. 1997, I got the Crusader job as a young coach. And I went to a coaching conference New Zealand Rugby Union was running. Graham was the champion coach at the time with the Blues, and over the weekend he proceeded to share all his ideas with me about virtually everything about how the Blues had set up a campaign to win Super Rugby.
Very silly.
And we went pretty well that year, Crusaders, but the Blues won the championship again and played even better than they had in 1996. And it taught me a lesson, really, that when you share your ideas, when you walk out that room, you've got to go and create new ideas, and you've got to innovate and step up even further from where you've been. And so, whilst Graham had shared that with us and the Crusaders, we were trying to get to this point here, the Blues were going to there. And so we put our efforts into getting there, and he innovated and got the team to there. So that was a real good learning for me about not hiding everything away, and that to be creative and to think about the game and to take the team forward, and you've actually got to share things. Plus, the other thing that I've learned about it is that when you share an idea, you get plenty back, and I think that's important as well as a coach. So for me, the Rugby site for me is simply about it's good people, good coaches, people who are passionate about our sport, who are willing to share their ideas, their coaching thoughts, but also to create a lot of discussion, a lot of debate. It'll create a lot of thinking, which to me is one of the most important attributes of a coach or a player, is the ability to be open to learning and the ability to think. And I think it'll do that. So, for me, I'm really excited to be involved.
And a lot of those modules that are online, it's about learning from you as well, because when you have to explain things to other people, it makes you think about what you're doing the whole time. And I know all the guys involved have found it a very valuable process. Anyway, we're going to go now to Richie, Dan and Gregor. Now please bear with this, some of the visuals and audio are a little bit sketchy, a little bit grainy, because they've been filmed in some remote locations, but we hope the content's good enough that you will stay with it.
Why do we get involved with the Rugby website? I guess, when you've been around a while, you look back as a young fella and the things that I guess would have helped me and would have been awesome to have had the ability to look at as a young fella, and that is, when you're growing up, to whether you could rub shoulders with the guys that are playing at the top level or just get some tips off them, that's something that I would have really enjoyed. And I guess I'm in that position now where, the Rugby website's a way of just perhaps being able to share a few things with the up-and-coming rugby players about how I go about things and what I do and what sort of served me pretty well to play top level rugby for a few years now. So that's why I got quite excited about it. And I guess the other thing is that I've taken a lot. I've had a lot of enjoyment out of the game, and it's a chance of just putting something back and hopefully contributing to other people's to what other people are doing, especially young fellas. So that's why I'm really excited about it. I don't know about you, Dan, but what do you reckon?
I see it as a bit of a chance to give my supporters and fans around the world a chance to see how I do things as a rugby player and as a first five or fly half. Not saying that that's the way that you have to do it, but that's how I go about playing the game and practicing. And just a few inside tips to how I go about things. So it's a perfect opportunity for that, and also the chance to work alongside some of the world's best coaches and players that are also involved in the website is something pretty special too. So hopefully you get something out of it, and enjoy the modules and enjoy the website, which I'm sure you will.
I think I'll just add a little bit. Just the great thing about the site is that you'll get a flavour from all different parts of the world. From perhaps what I do, but someone else in the other part of the world might do it a little bit different. Nothing's right or wrong, but it gives you a chance to take whatever things that might work for you, and that's what's going to be great about this site. It's a chance to take little bits from all different areas and make it the best for you. So I hope you enjoy it.
Why did you want to get involved with the rugby site? Well, a number of reasons. The first was the quality of people involved, from the coaches that are already there, and Graham Henry and Wayne Smith, for example, to people behind the website, rugby people that I trust and those that have designed the site, real professional business people. And also from a coaching point of view, the fact that I want to give something back to the wider rugby community, some of my coaching philosophies and what I think works in the game, but also believe it will make me a better coach, focusing on coaching itself and rather than the day-to-day game plans and analysing the opposition. And I know already through my contributions to the site I've had to think about different things, and it's improving me as a coach.
Now here's a trailer from a coaching module that Dan Carter put together when he went back to his old school down in Christchurch. It features both drop punting and spiral kicking, and we hope you'll get something from it and maybe want to get a lot more from it.
The position of the ball will generate the spiral. So just nice, strong, smooth follow through, and you watch it sail through the sky and rake off the meters. Why I opt for the drop punt over the spiral is because of its accuracy. It's a kick that I use if I really want to hit a certain part of the field. Happy with those?
We're now going to go to a section of questions that some of you have sent in before we were online today. I think we're going to Richie, Dan and Gregor in this section to deal with the first set of questions.
So we've got a question here from Jonathan, who lives in England, and his question is, who or what has been the greatest influence in your career? Probably if I go, for myself, if I go right back to when I first started playing the game, I had a fellow who was our coach by the name of Barney McCone. He got us together, a wee team when I was 7, and he coached us through to when I was 13, and he really taught us, especially as young kids, how to pass the ball and how to really be part of a team. You know, he really encouraged us to pass the ball around, have good skills, learn how to tackle, and I think from then he sort of set the foundation of what the enjoyment you get out of the game, certainly for me, and that's carried me all the way through. So I guess he was a big part of introducing me to the game and teaching me what I guess what the ethos of playing rugby is all about. I guess the other one that I've had a lot to do with is Steve Hansen. Right from when I first started playing professional rugby right through to now as All Black coach, he's always been had some pretty good words to say to me, keep me on the right track, and I really enjoyed his ideas and stuff. So I guess that's a couple that I've really enjoyed.
Yeah, I'd have to pay credit to to every coach that I've had, they've taught me something and encouraged me and influenced me in one way or another. So we thanks to all my coaches, but my number one influence would have to be my father. He was a real rugby man himself, and from what Mum says, as soon as I could walk, he was putting a rugby ball in my hand, and then he was the guy that taught me how to kick and would always be out there in my backyard teaching me skills, and he was my coach as well, for probably the first 5-6 years of my rugby career when I was a young fella. So he's been my biggest influence to date, and he's my number one supporter and gets to every game he can, and he's still there now. Whether win or lose, he's always there, giving me advice and giving his opinion.
Okay, a question from Jonathan in England. Who were or who are the greatest influences on my rugby career? Whether that's playing or coaching, one person has influenced me in both of these, and that was my old school coach, Rob Moffat, who coached me when I was 12 years old, right through to 18, getting into this local school team at Galashiels Academy, and then the Scottish schools team, which he coached as well. He was a fantastic mentor, someone that really encouraged you to work on your skills. And latterly, Rob became a professional coach working with Edinburgh, so I was influenced by him at the borders when I came back to play in Scotland. And then moving into coaching, he's been a great influence. He was someone that had fantastic attributes like integrity, enthusiasm for the game, and a real love for pure coaching, and that is working with every player to get them to a better level, to get them closer to the potential. Other influences in my coaching career have been coaches like Ian McGeechan and Jim Telfer, who I've leaned on a lot for their advice, and particularly Andy Robinson, who I've worked with the last 3 or 4 years, and I've certainly improved working with him and learning from him.
As part of the rugbysite.com, the website, we're involved with a lot of top coaches and players, and a couple in particular, Victor Matfield and Bismarck Duplessis, a couple of real competitors that we come up against in Super Rugby and also international rugby as well, when they're playing for the Springboks. I know personally, every time I come up against them, I'm in for a real competition. They're right at the top of their game at the moment, and have been for a while. They really pride themselves on their physicality, and I can tell you, after I've played them, I know that I've been in for a big match, because the body's normally pretty sore because of those two at some stage of the game. So they're really valuable players in whatever team that they play for, and they're real superstars of rugby at the moment.
Yeah, I'd agree with DC. I think when I think of Victor Matfield, he's obviously been around for quite a few years now. He's prides himself at line-out time. He's always pretty big in that area. Obviously leads pretty well, whether it be the Springboks or the Bulls. I know he's got a module on line-outs, I think, so it'll be interesting to have a look at that. It'll be good to see. But certainly he's been a top player for a long time. And Bismarck, certainly he's a guy that makes himself known. He plays hooker, but his the way he gets around the field and the impact he has, you'd almost think he's another loose forward. So obviously had the most impact day, but no, he's certainly a player that you certainly know you're up against. So it's great to have them contribute to this to the rugby website. It's going to be awesome.
What do I know and respect about Wayne Smith? Well, I'd heard so many positive things about Wayne, having played with a few of the ex-Crusaders guys out in France, and they said he was just the best coach, most analytical coach you could work with, and a big part of why the Crusaders did so well in those mid to late 1990s. And in 2002, Wayne got in touch with me because he was head coach at Northampton and was looking to sign me to play there. And I had many long rugby chats with Wayne about rugby, and I just thought I would love to be coached by him. Just really knew the game, having played in the same position as me as a standoff. I thought it'd be fantastic for my career, and I could see he was going to work wonders with Northampton, and obviously he's done that with the All Blacks. Since then, since I've been coaching over the last few years, I've chatted to Wayne on a number of occasions, and he's been really open with his time, And I believe as a coach, he looks at where the next edge is in the game of rugby, how to improve the team, how to improve individuals, looking at key trends, but also looking at different ways of playing the game to be ahead of the curve at all times, and that's obvious in the way his teams play.
So the most analytical coach ever, or some such thing. We better analyse that. What have you got to say back after that from Gregor?
Well, Gregor's right about the Northampton incident. I was pretty keen to contract him. It came from having coached against him a few times and what he brought to the game. I'd seen Fijians do what he did. I never thought I'd see a Scotsman play the way he played. And you know, he's very unpredictable, played with a lot of flair. I just loved his game, so that's why I made the trek up to Edinburgh to see if we could sign him. It didn't quite come about. Subsequently, we've locked horns internationally when the All Blacks played Scotland last year. What I really loved about Gregor was last year he rang to see if we could meet in the week of the Test match, just for a cup of coffee. And I thought that was great. Two young coaches, or a young coach with an older coach, have a cup of coffee. And we just talked about the game in Scotland, the game in New Zealand, some of the trends, what we'd seen, what was happening in the game. And I just love that in a coach. I love that in Gregor, that he's open to sharing ideas, but he's also open to listening and thinking about the game and debating. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. The other thing that I remember most about that game was at the aftermatch function when we were having a drink together, and just his composure, I suppose, and his ability to take the pressure, because we'd had a pretty big win that day and they had the Springboks coming up the next week. And he was just, you know, he loves the game, he was composed, there was no hint of panic about him, and of course then they went on to have a great victory against the Springboks a week later. And it showed something to me that here's a guy with Andy clearly who was able to absorb lessons, look at them logically, have a think about how that would apply against the next opposition, the Springboks, and then come out with a win. And it was an amazing week, I thought, of transformation. So I decided when Gregor said he was going to be a part of this business that I'd buy all his videos. So there you go, I'm going to buy all Gregor's videos and find out what I can. I've already got the Masters videos, Graham's videos, because like if you're a young coach or a player, if I was still a player, you couldn't not get Graham Henry's videos.
Oh, very good, Smithy.
And I feel the same as a coach about Gregor. So I'm going to find out everything that he does and see what I can learn.
I think they're better than Scorsese's videos, apparently. So anyway, we're going to Dan and Richie again now, and I think they're going to talk about these two gentlemen here.
I guess say a little bit more about Wayne Smith and Graham Henry. Obviously had a lot to do with them over the years, coaching the All Blacks, and obviously got some coaching modules on the rugby website, which is awesome. But I guess from my point of view, working with those two, Graham Henry, you know, he's been head coach, and the thing I really admire about him is he's always thinking ahead. You know, he's been coaching he tells us, for a huge number of years. Well before I was born, he was coaching, so there's a huge amount of experience that he can bring. But what he does is he's always looking for the next way of the way of playing. You know, what's going to be the thing that means that the team he's coaching is going to win next weekend and or next campaign. And I think that's what's really refreshing. He's always looking at pushing the boundaries. And Wayne, you know, his from a point of view, he does a lot of I guess similar to Graham, does a lot of has a really good understanding of what's going on with rugby trends and stuff at the moment. He does a lot of analysis and can tell you the ways, best ways to score points, who's doing what, who's doing it the best, which teams are. And I think they just obviously love what they do, but just love passing that on to their teams and get a huge satisfaction out of their teams going out and playing well. And it's been the All Blacks for the last wee while that I've coached, and I've just enjoyed playing under them, really.
Yeah, the both of them are amazing coaches. They're what we call coaching nerds. The amount of time they spend in front of the computer analysing teams, analysing opponents, analysing individuals is crazy. I'd love to know, exactly, each week how long they spend in front of the computer. It would be a ridiculous amount of hours, but that's what makes them such good coaches. They're always looking, what's next, and trends of the game, and way that they can lead it in that front. They're both extremely experienced coaches. So not only have they coached in New Zealand, but Smithy in the UK, coaching Northampton for a number of years, and also Graham, with the British and Irish Lions and the Welsh side there. So that they know how the game's played, over the other side of the world in the Northern Hemisphere, as well as down here in the Southern Hemisphere. So they're extremely experienced coaches with a lot of knowledge that they love to share. So for the rugby site, to have them on board, and then giving some of their modules and their little tips and secrets is real credit to a lot of up and coming coaches out there. So I know I'm really lucky, and I speak for Richie as well. We're really lucky to have the opportunity to play under these fantastic coaches for a number of years. We've learned a lot, and they're quality.
Yeah, they're listening, don't you?
Yeah, I know. It's a big year this year, so hopefully they'll select me after those kind words.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Hope you say nice things back.
Now it's Graham and Wayne's turn to answer some of your questions, and if you do have a question, please just type it into the chat box at the bottom of the screen. I think we've got one that's come in from John Foley. What realistically can be done about instability at the scrum and the number of resets? Perhaps, Graham, you'd like to have a go at that one.
A very good question, John. I'm sure the whole world is frustrated by the scrum at the moment. Although I think there's one or two signs it's getting better, but I think the referees have just got to apply the law. And that is head and shoulders above hips, and the 3 front rows on each side hitting square on impact. And I think if we do those 2 things religiously, and they're refereed accordingly, we won't have the same problems. You'll notice, though, that some sides are repeated offenders at this particular problem. And I won't go into the stats on that because it probably will be, this is not the forum, but if you look at the stats around the world, you'll see that some countries are continually going down and have to be reset. So, but those 2 things, head and shoulders above hips and hitting square, particularly the tight head.
And I think, Wayne, you just want to add a quick something to that?
Yeah, I'm not quite as au fait with the scrum as Graham is. From a back's point of view, this might be a blog side article, this statement, but I just wonder why the loose head's not allowed to momentarily put his hand on the ground. It's pulled up all the time, and sometimes it's not material, or it is material in that it stops the scrum going down. It's only momentary, and then the arm comes up. Maybe they've missed the bind, goes down, and then you get another reset or a penalty. I'd like to see a bit of leniency there from a simple back who just wants to see the ball come out.
And we have a second question from Ewan. Who were your rugby heroes when you guys were young? Graham?
Well, I go back some time, but I watched the 1959 Lions play and the 56 Springboks, but the 59 Lions had a bloke named Beb Risman who played 5'8", and I thought he was an Englishman, correct?
Yes.
And I thought he was an outstanding player, and I didn't think he was given the credit of being probably the best 10 in the world in 1959. Then Barry John and the Lions in 71, that Carwyn James side, they put a book together. I think it was called The Lions Roar.
So Lions Roar over here and the Lions Speak in Britain.
And I used that as a Bible, a rugby coaching Bible for many years. And many of the players contributed to that. And I've still got a couple of copies, and often I go back to it, even today. So you can learn from the past as well as learn from the future. But I was a 5'8". Like Smithy was my hero later on. But You know, Risman and Barry John were outstanding, and Mark Ella. You know, Mark Ella, was that 84?
84, the Grand Slam.
Yeah, like the Australian backs in 84 was sublime, I thought. So, I guess being a 5'8", your heroes come in the same position. Wayne Smith and those other three.
Yeah, I mean, I was similar. When I was little, Dad used to, we had these 45s and LPs of Lions tours, Springboks games against the All Blacks. And Sunday afternoon, Dad and I used to sit by the gramophone and listen to these LPs. So I was brought up on players who were playing the game when I wasn't even alive. And Winston McCarthy, wait for it, listen, it's a goal. And so I was brought up with all that stuff. And I had the same, the same sorts of players. I love Tony O'Reilly, Peter Jackson, people like that from Lions tours. Barry John was special. But really, when I think back, probably my rugby heroes were guys like Pat McEntee, Dave Merito, Dave Wood. When I was a kid, these were the coaches that spent time with me. I had this maths teacher called Pat McEntee who used to get out every lunchtime and teach me how to kick. And Dave Merito who was a Maori All Black. He coached the first 15. And Dave Wood, who captained the Waikato Ranfurly Shield team, he was my senior coach. So I was really lucky to have those sorts of influences. And they were all 5'8". So they taught me what I know about the game, I suppose.
And now we've got a question from Razjad. I hope that's right, Razjad. Graham and Wayne, how do you prepare a team to play someone as unpredictable as Quade Cooper?
Well, I think this gentleman's from Australia and trying to get some inside information. But I think, and Smithies will follow me on this, I'm sure, but I think you've got to do a lot of homework and watch Quade play. He's obviously a huge talent. And I'm not sure how Robbie will play him at international level, but at the Reds he plays often at fullback and defence, and he's really good from back there. So I think you've got to do a lot of homework on what he does with the ball and how the players play off him next to him. So, and then organise your defence to cater for that. So without going into detail, because I don't think this is the forum to do that, it's the homework and then devising a plan to stop him functioning. Easy to talk about, harder to do.
Yeah, I agree with Graham. You can't really nullify the guy for a whole game because he's a hell of a good player. So you've got to have a team approach to it. So how do you limit his opportunities as a team? How do you make the ball unstable, for example? And how do you nullify the others around him? Because you're not going to stop him offloading, for example, but you've got to make sure the offload isn't as dangerous as it could be by tackling the guys he passes to. So you can't look after him totally, but if you do your homework, you come up with a plan. This isn't any part of rugby actually. You come up with a plan, and you get everyone believing in the plan. Then you've got a chance of it being successful. And
now we've got one from Phil Cross. Will there be, I think this is a reference to the rugby site, will there be specific coaching tips, sessions and so on aimed at the junior rugby levels from under 11 and downwards?
Yeah, absolutely, Phil. The videos that I've been doing, I've tried to take that approach that is what I'm doing applicable to junior rugby as well as to senior rugby. And so everything, and Graham's the same, we've tried to make things relevant for any level of the game, and we've dealt with some of the major areas such as tackling, defence, building a backline, for example. So how do you go about that? Do you just throw people out there and pass them the ball, or is there a way that you can work out how deep or how wide players should be? And I think that's probably more relevant for the ages you're talking about than the higher level. So I've tried to cater for that, certainly in my videos, and I'm pretty conscious of that. And if you want some more, give us a yell and we'll see if we can do even more of that level sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think all of the videos are progressive. So they're progressions of very simple, for example, tackle technique and what you need, what exercises you need to go through to do that. And there's progressions as the kids get older. And so it caters, hopefully, from a very young age to international level. So there's information for every level of the game. But the beauty of the site is that all you need to do is ask a question and we'll provide some answers for you, hopefully, very quickly, particularly after October. But you know what I mean. So, no, there's progressions for all age groups in playing the game.
And I know, I'll just add to that, talking to Gregor the other night, that some of the skills he's working on in preparing the Scotland team for the World Cup are skills that he says are just as relevant to that age group. Catching sounds simple. It's not that simple, where you catch the ball, how you catch the ball, and so on. So a lot of the skills he will still work on with senior international players, he will work on with junior players as well. Anyway, we'll move to Ben now. And what percentage, I don't know if this is 63.2% he's asking for, but what percentage importance would you put on the mental aspect in success?
Oh, I think it's significant, Ben. You know, we as an All Black team believe this area of the game is untapped. It's something that people don't know a lot about and therefore avoid. And I think we need to do a lot of research in this area. We'll have people who are sports psychologists who have got expertise in the game on mental skills that are required in playing any international sport. And there's certain aspects that we need to know about brain biology, how the brain works, and how to introduce various skills that are going to enhance your performance on a rugby field without going into detail. So I think it's a very important, put a percentage on it, I'd say 40. What do you think, Smithy?
Yeah, the way I look at it, like everyone talks about sport being the top 2 inches, but very few, if you believe that, then you've got to train it. But very few, a lot of people make that statement and then don't actually train the mental aspect. And for me, I've always looked at it as a 3-legged stool. So if you can see what I've got in front of me here, if you imagine that was a 3-legged stool, and this element was technical, tactical aspects of rugby, this one is physical conditioning, and this one is mental skills. And then if you take one of those away, the stool will collapse, it'll fall over. And I think that's what happens generally with coaches, that they work on the technical, tactical, they feel comfortable with that. Work on the physical, because that's pretty easy, run them up and down, do a few weights. It's this one here that I think is more mystical and has less information about it, and less people know how to train it. But I think it's the one that gives you the biggest edge.
There's a saying in our camp, it's easy to sweat. So the mental side of the game is more difficult, and the players find it more difficult to get into, but it's an area that's going to give most sides the greatest advance, the greatest improvement. So very important question, and hopefully we've given you some insight into that.
I think the next question is almost a follow-on to it from Peter, which is that, do you think that the emphasis on winning the World Cup this year should be on partly mental preparation, but on defence? How important is defence in World Cups?
Can I start on that?
Yeah.
I think as coaches we're always trying to improve the game that we're playing. And most of the game, if you look at the continuums, about 85% of the game is constant, week in and week out, line out, scrum, back attack, defence and so on. And you're looking to try and get an edge. And that edge is the trends in the game right now. What you can develop to keep your side ahead of the pack, if you like. And that's what Smithy and I are doing in New Zealand rugby right now, is trying to find that edge. We have discussed that, and we think there's some trends that we can add, but if your defence is not watertight and superb, you're not going to win. So I think going back over the history of the Rugby World Cup, you'll find most of the sides who have finished up winning that little yellow cup have been great defensive sides. So I think that's the backbone of it. And is another part of the question that I've missed there?
The mental.
Well, the mental, we did deal with that slightly.
And I think we've probably dealt with the mental side in the last question.
Yeah, I've got something to add to what Graham just said, because I agree totally with that whatever game, whether it's a tournament or whether it's a test match, whether it's Tri Nations, for us, defence is pretty critical. But I think there's an extra factor at the Rugby World Cup, and that is that teams play with huge patriotism and a lot of emotion, and often will rise to a level that perhaps haven't risen to over the last 4 years. And I think that makes games even tighter and makes the defences even better. You know, players will really throw their bodies into the fray and will commit themselves physically to try and win the game and win the tournament more so than they would any other year. So I think that adds to the fact that, you know, you've got to be really, really sharp there. If you want to win this tournament, you've got to be really good there. And we're lucky in that all three of us, Graham, Steve and myself, we're all busybodies and we all help each other in our areas of the game, and we're pretty fortunate with that because you know, we're not stuck in silos. We all help each other's coaching, and defence is one area where we all have a massive amount of input.
Yeah, I'm sure that's something that's needed. I don't know what the average score in a Rugby World Cup final and the amount of tries, but it's going to be pretty low over the years. But anyway, let's take a last question from Nick Woodland. As a young coach looking to take his hobby into a job, what and who should I be looking at for inspiration? Not sure I entirely understand the question, but I think he is looking to see what coaches and what aspects of rugby he can be inspired.
I've got a thought on that, Nick. I think the first thing is that you should draw inspiration from passion for the game and the people you're coaching and enjoyment, because it's like anything, mate. It's like players. If you're not loving what you're doing, then it's difficult to turn it into a job. And the minute you turn it into a job anyway, it can become mundane. So what I would say is maintain your enjoyment, maintain your love for it. Keep revisiting why you're passionate about the sport all the time. And jobs are simply a reflection of how well you do. And like we never went in this job or the sport to be where we are today. You really get put there through a series of successes, I guess. But you're not going to be successful unless you love it.
Can I add to that, Nick? I think first of all you've got to make good decisions. If you want to be a highly successful coach, I think you've got to get into an environment which assists you to do that. And I think that's a pretty obvious statement. So you need to choose wisely who you'd like to coach. That's the first thing. I think also you need ambition. You need that drive deep down in the gut that you want to be the best. And if you haven't got that, it's not going to happen. I think you need to make sure that you're very player orientated, so that your job is to improve them and they want to come back for more because they're loving that. They're loving that learning, they're loving that advance, and they're enjoying your involvement. And finally, and most importantly perhaps, is you've got to win. If you don't win, you don't survive. So, pretty easy, isn't it? Right environment, huge determination to be successful, develop your players, and win. Good luck.
Well, maybe these guys just make it look easy. Well, thanks to both of you, Graham and Wayne, for being here. And that's just about it from the Rugby site. And thanks to you all for tuning in. And the site is now officially live, so use it. It's your site and get the most out of it you can. We hope you enjoy it.